Hello and welcome to the August 22nd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. We're going to start with saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I ask that everyone please silence their cell phones, and we'll begin with roll call.
Ms. Leschuk.
Present.
Mr. Hartzell.
Present.
Mr. Benny's present. Mr. Henderson.
Present. We're going to start with item number 1, triple net investments. 9151 Bristol Pike, Morrisville, PA 19067, tax map parcel 13-040-045-003, zoned LI, owner triple net investments. XCVI LLC, Waiver of Land Development, 13,200 square foot accessory building on an existing trailer parking area.
Good evening, everyone. Justin Giannotti with Dynamic Engineering here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Joe Petrucci is seated behind me too, from Triple Net Investments. We just give you a little bit of history of how we came here tonight. Back in October, we submitted and got approved an earth disturbance application to construct what's on the screen here. At this point, it was a 175 trailer storage parking lot located at the corner of Old Bristol Road and Bristol Road. That has since been constructed. This is a drone photo of actually what was constructed. This was taken back in December. Obviously, some of the areas you see in gray or brown have been now grown with grass and grown in a little bit further. If you switch to another control in the back, the next slide will just show you an aerial photo of what has been all this loads. This is just an aerial photo showing that it's been fully constructed. Since then, we have been trying to lease out the property, and from a market standpoint, we have found that they have there's a strong interest to have a maintenance facility on these types of facilities. So we're here tonight to amend the plan and with a 13,200 square foot maintenance building on the site. That will be constructed entirely within the area of existing impervious. What we're going to do is basically eliminate 26 of the trailer stalls, install the building, and then put some parking to serve that facility. There's no additional impervious. There's no change in use with the exception of that building is just going to serve the use which is already there. And we have submitted a zoning plan, and we're here tonight just to request a waiver of land development because the building itself is larger than 5,000 square feet. So by the nature of your ordinance, it requires a land development. But due to the fact that that building is going to be installed over existing impervious, no change in use, we feel that it's suitable for a waiver of land development. We have letters from Remington Vernon from a traffic standpoint and from Jones Engineering as a review of this plan. Here tonight, we went through them. All will complies, very, very minor comments just to address as we move through I'll call it the amended land development process, but really an earth disturbance amendment to that plan. So happy to answer any questions anyone may have, but that's really here tonight just for your support for a recommendation of a waiver of land development.
So will the building be sprinklered, connected to the water?
At this point, they're not going to sprinkle. Yeah. It'll be per code. There's no plans at this time to sprinkler the building.
I think there is.
But if there is, then obviously we'll be compliant. At this point, we're just here for the approval of the building. We'll go through the building permit process after this point.
And the plan is to put it on-lot septic system?
Correct. So we already did the feasibility analysis for the on-lot septic. There's park rates out there, so we will be able to make a viable septic field. I'm sorry, if you go to, I think it's slide number 4 shows the location of that proposed building on this lot. It's coming, I'm
I
sure.
don't have anything else, Mr. Henderson.
You said that,
Go to number 4. Yep,
boy,
that was the existing plan. Number 3, I'm sorry.
you said that people that rent this out would prefer to have a storage and maintenance building. Do you know what it is that they specifically use it for? Like, how
So they
many
don't have a
people would
tenant
be-
yet. It's just as they're trying to go to market to lease this property, they're getting a lot of feedback that these facilities want to have an on-lot maintenance facility for vehicles of that on the lot. So that's why they're trying to get ahead of that to propose and build the building on this facility to better serve that market.
So I guess the object is to lease it to one entity and not have like a bunch of over-the-road truckers parking their rigs here?
That's correct.
So you don't know how many employees, what hours they'd be operating in these buildings or anything like that?
Not at this time. So we did provide compliant parking due to the size of the building. There is a guard shack. So this building is, this lot is fully fenced in right now with a guard shack. So it's a secure lot. It's going to maintain that way. We're showing 10 parking spaces along the building and another 3 up by the guard shack.
This is going to be just a bare bones, like, storage, maintenance building?
it.
There's nothing, no bathroom? Well, you'll
There-
obviously have a bathroom, but
there will
like
be
offices
There
or?
will be a bathroom, maybe a small office to serve the use, but it'll all be part of that use, not a separate office building.
So you don't know exactly what use it'll serve then?
No, I mean, obviously, this is an accessory to the trailer storage parking lot, so it will be some sort of maintenance facility for that use, some accessory use to that facility.
Is there any public comment? All right. We have none. Any more questions from the board?
No.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval for the Waiver of Land Development application review for Old Bristol Pike, TMP number 13-040-045-003. Everything will comply, correct? Including whatever the fire marshal dictates when it comes to sprinkler systems and safety systems, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Based on the fire marshal letter of August 15, 2023, the Jones Engineering letter of August 16, 2023, and the Remington Burnix Engineer letter, August 15, 2023.
I'll second.
All right, Brian, poll the board?
Ms. Leschuk,
Yes.
Mr. Hartzell,
Yes.
Mr. Benisi, yes. Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Item number 2, Keystone Trade Center, 801 Dean Sievers Place, Fairless, PA 19030, tax map parcel 13-051-001-005, zoned MPM, owner NP Falls Township Industrial LLC, preliminary final land development for Building 20, one warehouse. Mr. McGinnis?
Hi, good evening. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here tonight on behalf of North Point. I don't know, Diane, we have the slide for, this is Justin's up still. Okay, thank you. We are here for consideration, recommendation regarding what we've labeled as Building 20, which is primarily located on 13-51-001-005. The property in the aggregate on site is a little over 32 acres, 32.3 acres, and we're here proposing the construction of an approximately 267,000 square foot warehouse. This property fronts on Dean Sievers Place, and it's a little bit different than some of the other North Point properties that we've had before you inside of the KTC, in that this one is more in the vicinity of other parcels that North Point does not wholly control. So even though it's within the KTC, if you actually look at an aerial of the site, it's surrounded by other non-North Point affiliated entities. However, I do think, despite that fact, I wanted to highlight a couple points at the outset here. First of all, this lot is included in the sewage planning module process for the overall park development that North Point has submitted. We did receive, I think yesterday actually, our NPDES permit approval, which was, I think, quicker than we had expected and we're excited about. And we have a few waivers that, ordinarily give a little bit of an introduction, and then I'd have Eric or Tim go through the plan, but I want to take this briefly out of order and handle a couple of the waivers to clarify a few of the items that were in Joe's review letter before I have Tim do a brief overview of the plan, if that works. So specifically, if you turn to page 3 in the Jones Engineering review letter, the first waiver, which is identified, corresponds to section 191.52.1 B3B2 regarding disturbance of 25% steep slopes within the site. There's a note that we're requesting 100% disturbance. That is not what we're requesting. We are requesting 17.65% disturbance of 25% steep slopes. So the ordinance threshold has a 15% cap of what we're allowed to disturb. We are just slightly over that, disturbing or requesting to disturb 2.65% of steep slopes, which my understanding is primarily man-made on site. And then secondly, the next section in the review letter is 191.52.1 B8BA regarding the wetlands margin. The ordinance requires limitation of 20% alteration in the wetlands margin. Just for clarity, there's a request about verifying whether or not the waiver is needed with the site capacity calcs. We did verify, and we are just over 21%, so we are almost basically 1.5% over what's permitted. So in terms of the slopes and in terms of the wetland margin, we are this close to not requesting those waivers, but unfortunately we are minorly over what's allowed in terms of the disturbance for both of those. And then I'm going to come back, but I'm going to skip to the next page, which is the 191.78C2 existing features partial waiver, which is one that we've requested on most of our applications for new construction. Before going back to the last waiver request, which is 191.61 relating to sidewalks, and this has been a point of conversation, obviously, as we've gone through this process. I thought it was worth highlighting at the beginning. My understanding is Tim and Eric and North Point's team have been in discussions with Joe and Doug regarding finalization of what I'm going to consider the master plan for the cartways, street lighting, sidewalks, and the like. This particular area, again, not being quite internal to the park, doesn't have sidewalks anywhere in the vicinity. So while we are going through this process with our new development, constructing sidewalks on one side of the roadway for basically every building that we're putting up, I think we measured that the nearest sidewalk connection for this property to the nearest North Point building, building 5, I believe, is almost 2,000 feet. So in this instance, we don't believe sidewalk installation here is in line with sort of the broader vision that North Point has in terms of the cohesion and walkability of the balance of the buildings that would be constructed. So we are requesting a full waiver instead of a deferral or a partial waiver for sidewalk installation, just because of the location of this building versus existing conditions relative to other already improved parcels that are not going to be redeveloped likely in the immediate future. So with that, everything else is a will comply in Joe's review letter, and would turn it over briefly to Tim to just do a quick overview of the site and then open it up to any questions. I know Peyton Harrison is with me from North Point, and again, I think Jeremy's on the phone, but we'd be happy to answer any questions after that.
Thanks, Mike. Tim Casey with Gilmore. The project is located on an approximate 32.3 acre site. There's just under 5 acres of wetlands that we're avoiding, not disturbing. The proposed building is approximately 267,000 square feet. It has proposed loading and employee parking. All public utility connections, and the post-construction stormwater is controlled by 2 infiltration basins.
And then with that, we're happy to answer any questions, either operationally or technically, that the planning commission would have.
Any board questions?
Once again, you guys don't know who's going to be in this warehouse, or you have a client for this warehouse?
For building 20, I don't know the answer to
Feeling
that.
speculative as of now.
So no one yet,
No one yet?
correct.
Would they be open to a condition that, for the sidewalks, that if the other properties improve with sidewalks, they would add them in at a later date?
Yeah, I think that's certainly something we'd be willing to consider, yes.
Yeah, hey guys, sorry, it's Jeremy. I'm not sure
It's
if
like
you
a
can hear
voice
me.
from
I'm
the
having
sky.
apologies for not being there in person, but yes, that we would be willing to accept
Right.
that condition.
I was fearful that was him saying, Mike, what are you doing? Absolutely not. But, okay,
Oh.
yes. That's a condition, we'd be willing to do that, yes.
Unlike the North Point inside the gate, this road's not a very wide road, and it's a cul-de-sac. So I would just be concerned about how the operation's going to work with truckers parking on that road, and you know, if there's going to be, a lot of these warehouses that are outside of the gate have gates on their entrances, and all the truckers stage outside on the roadways. So this being a pretty substantial warehouse, I would just be concerned that the trucks aren't staged on Dean Seaver, because there is another chemical place that's right next door that has a lot of truck traffic coming in and out, and then A&A Machinery's there. They have a lot of truck traffic coming in and out. So that would be my only concern in this particular location. So something, I don't know how we address that, but that would be,
We can work with the township traffic engineer to assess whether road widening would be appropriate before they move to the board.
And that's something, I don't have a concrete answer to that, but we're happy to have conversations with Mike and Lauren going through, you know, in recognition of the location of this building versus the other warehouses that North Point is serving as landlord on behalf of, to try to make sure that we have the ability to appropriately navigate that with whatever tenant comes in to occupy the building, that we have some oversight and control to make sure that that is
I guess
protected.
it's not such a big deal if it's a 24-hour operation, but since you don't know who the tenant is right now, we have no way of knowing. So it's just something I would keep an eye on, that's all.
Is there any public comment? There's none. Any more board questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary and final land development application of North Point Building 21 Ben Fairless Drive, TMP number 13-051-001, zone MPM, with waivers of, let's see, with waiver of 91-52.1 B3B2, 191-52.1 B8BA, 191-61, but if requested later for sidewalks to be installed because of, you know, progression,
Connectivity, yep.
then that would be okay. And a partial waiver for 191-78C2. Right, yeah. And possibility of working with traffic engineers in case the roads need to be widened. Based on the fire marshal letter of June 13, 2023, the Remington Vernix engineer's letter of August 15, 2023, and the Jones Engineer Associates letter dated August 16, 2023.
All right, Brian, pull the board.
We have a second?
Do we have to have
Oh,
a second?
Sorry. Do we have a second?
A second.
Now, Brian, pull the board.
Ms. Leschuk,
Yes.
Mr. Hartzell,
Yes.
Mr. Benny's a yes. Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
All right, item number 3, approval of
Thank
minutes.
you.
Item number 3, approval of minutes from June 27th, 2023.
I,
Do we have a motion
yeah,
or
I move to approve them.
second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
So move.
All right.